Your ideas are amazing, but amazing ideas don't count for much unless you can make them real. And when it comes to physical products, there's only one way to do that: manufacturing. Almost every person alive is more familiar with buying than manufacturing, so the process can seem a little like magic, but it's not. And you're as capable as any other creator of finding the right manufacturer to help you make your dreams tangible. In this video, we're going to cover the basics of manufacturing and common problems you might run into. We're going to talk about how you find manufacturers, and then we're going to talk about quality assurance and estimating costs. My name is Brandon, here on behalf of Fulfillrite. If you need help shipping your orders, go to fulfillrite.com and request a quote. We've shipped for thousands of Kickstarters, and we're happy to help you ship yours too. The quote doesn't cost a thing, so if nothing else, you get some good information about pricing. Link is down there in the description. But enough self-promotion. Let's start with the basics of manufacturing. So at its core, the manufacturing process is all about converting raw materials through various stages until you have a finished product. The type of manufacturing you'll encounter varies. There's batch production for limited quantities, there's mass production for large volumes, and bespoke for custom-made items, among others. Knowing your product will determine which method suits you best. If you're making custom-made jewelry, then your manufacturing process will be bespoke, and possibly done in-house. But if you're making electronics, you will probably want to find an overseas manufacturer to produce in runs of 1,000 or more. No matter what though, from the earliest stages of product development, you need to think in terms of design for manufacturing. That's DFM. This is all about designing your product in a way that's easy and cost-effective to produce. And it's the surest way to make sure your design isn't just great on paper, but is practical for the production line. If you ignore DFM, that's a mistake, and it's one that can lead to higher costs and production headaches. You also need to know about minimum order quantities, or MOQ. This is the smallest amount of product a manufacturer is willing to produce in a single order. Your Kickstarter goal most likely will need to be based on the amount of money you need to produce your product's MOQ. Knowing about the concepts of DFM and MOQ will help you make sense of the communications you will have with manufacturers, and then you can ultimately make informed decisions when it's time to choose one. But before you make any kind of decision at all, you really need to be aware of 6 common problems in manufacturing. Look, manufacturing is expensive and the learning curve is steep, so you really don't want to screw up. It helps to know where the trouble spots are first though. So with that in mind, here's a list of what you need to look out for. 1. Poor communication and misaligned expectation. You and your manufacturer have to be on the same page. This is true of things like payment and delivery, but it's extra important when it comes to product design itself. For example, imagine expecting a silver finish and getting a matte gray one. That's not great. Always be clear in your communication, using prototypes and visuals to prevent misunderstandings. 2. Delays and unexpected costs. Maybe a raw materials price surge, or there's a sudden labor shortage. You never know what issues you're going to run into, so your best bet here is to add a cushion in your budget and timeline. Assume something's going to go wrong that you can't foresee or prevent. 3. Late design changes. Design changes mid-production can cause a cascade of issues. Avoid this by finalizing your design before starting, and resist the urge to tweak unnecessarily. 4. Poor quality control. Now look, it sounds obvious, but it doesn't make it any less important. Quality control is super important to your success. A bad batch of goods can tarnish your reputation, so make sure you've got stringent quality checks in place. 5. Poor logistics planning. It doesn't matter how good your goods are if you can't ship them. Make sure you factor in freight, customs, and fulfillment costs, and times to ship when you're choosing a manufacturer. Plan your logistics strategy well in advance. 6. Payment issues. Manufacturers usually require a deposit, and there might be disagreements about final payments, especially if there are defects or disputes. So always make sure you've got clear agreements in place, and consider using escrow services just for some peace of mind here. Now look, don't let all of these possible issues scare you away from manufacturing entirely. Once you know what the problems you're likely to run in are, you're better positioned to either prevent them or handle them when they come up. So with that in mind, let's talk about finding manufacturers. First, there's no substitute for patience and research, so keep that in mind when you're looking. You'll need to ask tons of questions and be extra sure you're getting a good deal. Start by searching online, visiting trade shows, or tapping into industry networks. You're not just looking for a manufacturer, but the right one. For each manufacturer, you'll need to consider their capabilities. Can they produce your product as envisioned? Look at costs, but remember, cheapest isn't always best. You need to think in terms of total cost of doing business, not just what's on the invoice. Ask yourself, where are they located? Proximity can affect logistics and shipping costs, and never ever overlook reputation. Check the reviews, ask for references, and really check them closely. These are the basic things that you'll need to ask, and they sound simple, but I can't emphasize this enough. Do your due diligence. Vet them. Visit their facilities if you can, and check for red flags. You're trusting them with your dream. You might also be wondering, should I find a manufacturer in my own country or should I look overseas? There are pros and cons to both, and going local might be easier for communication and shipping, but overseas manufacturers might offer competitive prices. There's no one right answer, it's just going to be based on what suits your unique needs. Now, if you don't know where to begin, websites like Alibaba, Thomasnet, and Makers Row are all great for finding possible manufacturers. Industry forums and subreddits, as well as trade shows, can provide you with valuable leads too. And sometimes a simple Google search might yield surprising results. You might even be able to get a good list of options from AI tools like ChatGPT. Just start somewhere and refine your approach as you learn. On that note, once you have a handful of manufacturers, there are two qualities you want to pay extra close attention to during your vetting process. They are quality assurance and packaging. Before mass production, always order samples. Know upfront that these samples are going to cost time and money, and it's a small price to ensure that you're on the right track. Once they arrive, inspect them critically and provide clear feedback. If they're not up to the mark, don't settle, request revisions, or reconsider your manufacturing partner. If you're considering sending your product to influencer reviewers, pay attention. Order samples for them too. Their endorsement can be gold, but only if you give them a really good experience. Quality extends to packaging too. This is especially true in the world of social media, where unboxing experiences can have a huge impact on your campaign's overall reach. Now, obviously, the packaging will have to be beautiful, but you also need to consider its more utilitarian aspects too. It protects your product, it affects shipping costs, and it's a branding opportunity and one that shapes user experience, and it needs to comply with regulations in your industry. So decide if your packaging is going to be purely protective or part of a larger product experience. Your manufacturer needs to be able to make or procure packaging that fits your specification. And speaking of shipping, packaging can be the difference between profit and loss. Bulky, heavy packaging increases shipping fees. Efficient design can save you a ton, which can come in really handy when you are estimating costs. From the moment you conceive your product, think about manufacturing costs. Start with designing for manufacturing. It's simpler and cheaper to make a product that's been designed with production in mind. No one wants a brilliant idea that's a nightmare to produce. Always, and I mean always, get detailed quotes early. Vague estimates won't cut it. Know your costs down to every penny, and ask your manufacturers how you can produce goods more cost efficiently. They're the experts, and they can tell you where you might be wasting materials or where a slight design tweak can save you a bunch of money. They've seen it all, so use their experience to your advantage. And lastly, don't shy away from negotiating. It's kind of uncomfortable, but prices are not set in stone. As long as you're respectful and firm, you have a good chance of getting a lower price. Now, once you get all the necessary information, put together a budget and estimate the cost to fulfill your campaign. Don't forget about stretch goals or add-ons that can cost more too. Always factor in a bit more than your estimates to account for the unexpected. Just be as thorough as you possibly can in your cost calculations. And by the way, we're going to be dropping a video on how to make a budget in 2 weeks, so more details will be coming soon. When it comes to bringing your Kickstarter projects to life, manufacturing is one of the most important parts of the process. That's why it's so important to understand how it works, all the way from the initial research stage to quality assurance. My name is Brandon, here on behalf of Fulfill Right. If you need help shipping your orders, go to fulfillrate.com and request a quote. We've shipped thousands of Kickstarters and we're happy to help you ship yours. The quote doesn't cost a thing, so if nothing else, you get some good information about pricing. Link in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Don't forget to slap some postage on that bell so we can express ship new videos to you as soon as they drop. And last but not least, if you have a question, leave a comment below. I will do my very best to answer it personally. Thank you for watching.